Hi everyone, it's Kelly Mackenzie again, and welcome back to the YEC. If you remember back to last time, we were at the Goodwood Community Centre. There was plenty of students there, and we all came up with our projects, and hopefully you've all been working hard on them throughout the first half of this year. Welcome to Centra. This is a bit of exciting technology. It's helping to bring together our students from all over South Australia, because it's a bit hard to bring everyone to Adelaide when they come from, you know, the York Peninsula, down the southeast, and yeah, so hopefully this technology is really helpful for us over the year, and hopefully there's not too many hiccups. So today we're going to be working on waste. We're going to hear from Johnny Hendricks from KeyStab, who's going to run through our results from the workshop in March and our best waste practice model. And then we'll hear from two schools, Edithburgh Primary and Murray Bridge High School. Then we'll open it up for questions for 5 minutes. And then we'll hear all about the future YEC events, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. So first of all, we've got Joe here to talk about waste. Here we go.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. And I'm actually going to talk about materials. If people were at the YEC forum back in last term, you might remember me mentioning that I don't really like to use the word waste unless it's using it as a verb when we talk about wasting something. Because most of the stuff that we put into bins is actually valuable resources or materials that can be used in another way or often recycled or things like that. So one of the activities that the Wipe Out Waste program that I coordinate offers for schools that have come along to Wipe Out Waste workshop is a thing called a bin audit, and there's a picture up there that you can see of some students that are involved in auditing the materials that have gone into their bins. So an audit involves the school collecting the materials that have gone into their bins inside and outside at school, and then we empty them with some trained staff from KeyStab and sort them into 12 different categories, and then we record the data, and then the school can use that to present the findings and recommendations back to the whole school. And what we find with those audits is that very little material really needs to be going in a bin that gets taken away to landfill. So the next slide shows a breakdown of the results from audits at 48 different schools. So they're schools and preschools from across South Australia. So there's primary schools and high schools and preschools included in that. I hope everyone can see everything all right on the slide. The red section there are items that can only go to landfill. The yellow section, which is about a third, is materials that could be recycled, and a lot of that comes out of schools is paper and cardboard. So that was the yellow area. The green stuff is, or the green part of the chart there is material that could be collected for composting, so that's food scraps. Paper towel from toilets is a really good thing to add into your compost. And the purple section is what we call reusable items, so that's things that really shouldn't have been in the bin in the first place, like water bottles, hats, netball bibs, cups from staff rooms, things like that. And that's a condensed version of the findings. The next slide is in a little bit more detail. Somebody's writing something beautiful there. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to read this because it didn't transfer across too well. But it's essentially the same as the one before. But if you can see the top right piece of pie there, the red one that's got black lines on it, which is 23% of the total volume of stuff going in bins. So out of all the stuff that people are putting into bins at school, almost a quarter of it is from food and drink packaging alone. So it's things like chip packets and biscuit packets and cling wrap and stuff that's around food that people have brought to school. So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on a little bit today, because that is really an area that is easy to make some changes in. And if you look at just underneath that food and drink packaging, where the star is a solid red piece of pie, which is only 5%, and that is the only stuff that really has to go to landfill. So out of all the materials that are being put into bins in schools, only 5% of that really has to go there in a perfect world. So the next slide shows some of the things that we can work towards reducing. The picture on the left there is one of the categories that we had, which is uneaten food. So that is a whole heap of sandwiches at this particular school that weren't eaten at all. They were just placed straight into the bin. You can also see there that there's lots and lots of Ziploc bags, which are another issue for schools and the environment. There's quite a lot of uneaten food bars, muesli bar type things and stuff like that, which might relate to maybe some healthy eating programs that you might have at your school, and quite a lot of fruit. Quite often there's a lot of fruit comes from junior primary classes, because little people can only eat little things, and sometimes like a great big apple is just too much for a small person to eat. So you probably know that yourselves anyway. The picture on the right hand side there is an example of the food and drink packaging that came out of a high school in one day, and that was about 200 litres. So that's one, maybe even a bit more, one whole wheelie bin's worth in one day. So that's a lot of packaging. If that was one day, that's 5 or more a week, and lots in 1 year. So what could we do? So I picked those two pictures because they're a couple of really easy things that you can, and you might already be working on at your school, but they're things that you can probably make some pretty simple changes to make a big difference in that sort of stuff going into bins. So the next slide has got some examples of things that you can do. I'll ask at the end in a little bit, which is only a couple of slides away, about how many people are doing things like this at their school. Nude food is very popular at the moment, which is food that doesn't have any packaging, which often is also very healthy food to eat too. So there's a couple of examples there of how you could bring some of your recess and lunch stuff to school. The one on the left-hand side is from a company called For My Earth, who have really great little sort of napkins and pockets that you can put sandwiches or fruit or vegetables into and bring that to school, and they're pretty popular. Lots of people. Pippa just told me that every YEC person is going to be getting one of those. When's that happening? In September, so that's pretty exciting. You'll be able to try them out and get everybody else at your school interested in those. They actually have some fundraising ideas on their website, so if you sell more than 30 of those little wrappers at school, you get them quite a bit cheaper. Not that I'm endorsing anything necessarily, but it's pretty good. And the one on the right is from another website that has lots of nude food ideas and some really good lunch boxes and packaging ideas that mean you don't have to wrap anything up to bring to school. So there are a couple of places that you can go and have a look at ideas about what nude food stuff is about. And we'll ask at the end how many people are already doing things like that in their school. How's that, Jan? Any better? Let us know if it doesn't get any better. I'll try and keep it closer. So the next slide is how can we get better at recycling things. So you can reduce, like the last slide was about how you can reduce food packaging. How can you get better at recycling stuff that you might be able to recycle in your school or your area? Would systems that make that easy for you to do at school make it easier to do? And the next couple of slides have pictures of things, some systems that different schools have in place. So you can see that these, I've called them indoor separation systems. So it's about placing different materials into different containers so that they can be recycled or composted, or if they can't have anything else happen to them, be sent to landfill. So there's some examples of ways that different schools do it, 4 different styles there, that are working really well. So some of you might have systems like that. Some of those might be from your school, especially Jeff West Primary School. See if yours, you can tell us in a minute if yours still looks the same. So they're indoor systems for separating things, and colour coding is really good. On the right-hand side, there are a couple of systems that have different colours, which make it really easy. The one on the bottom uses red for landfill, because that's often the colour of your landfill bin at home. Yellow for recycling. They've got a black bucket there, which is for 10-cent containers, and there's one that you couldn't see in that photo, which is a green one for organic materials for composting. So there's some examples of indoor systems. This next slide has examples of outdoor systems. Again, the ones on the two top ones on the right have got sort of colour-coded systems, and that one that Pippa's clicking stars on is the same school that had the indoor one, so they've got the same system inside and outside, which works really well. That particular school has actually reduced their material that's going to landfill by 70%, which is pretty exciting. The one below it is a high school, which has the big bins for landfill and the nice bright yellow bins for 10-cent containers. That works really well. The one on the bottom is a really easy one, which has reused catering buckets that they've gotten free or really cheaply from the local business, and the one that Pippa just clicked on is for worm food, and the other one's for 10-cent recycling containers. The other one. Yeah. And the next photo on the left is a really easy one, which I really like. They've just reused some really simple things and hung a crate on the side to collect their 10-cent drink containers. And they're just hung on the side of every bin that they have at school. And then there's a fun one for collecting 10-cent containers there, where they've made a big cage with a hoop to make that a bit interesting. And that's often a fun way of doing it. So I know some of those systems belong to some of your schools. So yeah, we might, I'll stop talking, and if you want any more information, or you've got some information that you'd like to share, let Pippa know, or me, and we might pop the whiteboard up so that you can tell us what's been happening at your school since the last forum, or whether you've got one of those systems that we saw, or something better, or think of a particular thing that we want to ask you so it's not too confusing. Perhaps if people would like to put up on the whiteboard, does everyone know how to use it? Okay. Okay, so if you click on the text tool at the top of the toolbar at the top of the page where the whiteboard is up now, and if you want to type in something that's happened, an action that's happened at your site through the YEC group since the last forum, or something that you'd like to add about the systems that we were just looking at. And if you want to tell us who it is that's typing in, you can use, is it the arrow, the blue arrow? If you click on that and put it next to where you're writing, that will let us know who it is, like Pippa's just done there. Okay, and if you can't see the arrow, it's called laser pointer. The third from the left on that toolbar at the top of the whiteboard. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm talking louder. Yes, well done, Nrmeducation. That is your great, really easy bin system with a crate on the side. And those nice brightly coloured bins they have in a big office for decks in town. Oh, no one has a bin by their desk. Actually, I wanted to mention too that there are 2 schools I discovered last week that don't have any outside bins in their school at all, and each classroom is responsible for the emptying their inside bins. The cleaners and the grounds people don't have anything to do with their bins, which I think is a really good idea. I'd be very interested to know if any of your schools have no indoor or outdoor bins. Yes, nerd food, very catchy, isn't it? And simple. Okay, if you've got any questions, we'll have some time at the end to ask questions. Okay, I'm going to hand it back to Kelly, and then we're going to go and have a look at what a couple of your sites have been doing. Going to be Edithburgh first. Get ready.
Thank you very much, Joe. That was wonderful. Sure gave us a lot to think about, and hopefully you can put some ideas back into your school and get excited about those lunch wraps for September. Oh yes, a round of applause for Joe using your applaud button at the top. Wonderful, just wonderful. Okay, so we're going to hand over to Edithburgh Primary School now. They've got a wonderful presentation lined up. So keep that applause going for Edithburgh.
Hello, we're from Edithburgh Primary School. This is Matthew, Samantha, Esther, and I'm Nathan. After listening to the speakers of the Youth Environment Student Forum, we plan to look at further ideas for the recycling of the rubbish that is generated at our school.
We undertook a litter audit over a week and graphed the rubbish collected from student lunches. We also gave the students a litter attitude survey. We found that we graphed a lot of compostable rubbish from lunches. The survey showed students are concerned about littering.
We shared our results in the school newsletter and provided some ideas to put to families to help reduce the non-recyclables. We will repeat the audit in term 3 and compare the results. We are also looking at other ways of recycling other items collected at our school. For example, yogurt containers and newspaper.
We are going to re-establish a composting area and possibly have a worm farm. We want to look after our school environment and share the ideas with the other students. Hope you enjoyed our presentation and it gave you some ideas for your school for you to do at your school.
Hello.
As a part of the Nrmeducation High School Students Action Committee, we are working together with the Youth Environmental Committee towards creating a recycling program. The local council has kindly donated 10 large bins for our use. We have developed a simple sticker which is being made at the moment. We have started on the sticker that it is a student-driven program where the proceeds go towards improvements within the school. The committees are now in the middle of working out which areas of the school are used the most, and therefore the bins will be placed there. We also have to decide whether or not to keep the bins there. We are working with our principal, Mr. Phil Simmons, and the groundsman to come up with a suitable area where the collected containers can be stored until they are taken to recycle. Our local depot has kindly offered to donate with bags for which the containers can be stored.
We have identified a possible problem that is the use of recycling bins as rubbish bins by students. Therefore, we believe to minimise this, we should place the recycling bins next to the rubbish bins. This is a work in progress in the first school year. We plan to make this progress continuous in the year by setting up KPIs. Once the details are sorted out, our committee will create a blueprint which will incorporate fixes and management programs that Linda proposed earlier onto the school board website. We believe that by creating a blueprint and making changes here rather than before, the program will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This is the call there. Sorry for the audio was a bit slow, a bit of technical trouble. Now I'm just going to open up for question time. So use the hand tool on the screen, and I'll need to open up for any questions. Okay, top left-hand corner, anyone have any questions? Kevin from Houston Speech Council, also turn on your microphone and ask a question. Yep. Okay, we'll come back to you, Kevin. Corey from Ballaratton. Yeah, we were just wondering how to get kids to put food in the right bin, like scrap bin. Put that over to Joe.
Probably just making it as easy as possible. So, like colour coding bins is really good, and if you've got some really clear signage, maybe with some images of the sort of things that you want to have put in there, and also putting them into the right places. Some other schools might have some suggestions for that as well. So I guess it depends what you've happening at the moment, and maybe doing a survey like what some of the issues are and find out what people use them. Questions from Jan at Warradale?
We want to know if any other schools use Bakashi. It sounds really efficient.
Okay, just in case people...
We want to know if any other schools use Bakashi because we found it really efficient for our food scraps.
Yeah, good question, Warradale. So just in case anyone had trouble hearing that, the question from Warradale was whether any other schools are using Bakashi for composting, or bokashi, which is a Japanese fermentation method. You collect it in a bucket and it pickles. I know that there are quite a few other schools. I'm not sure if any of the other schools that are here today are. Maybe they could put a green tick, yes, next to their school name if they're a school that also uses Bokashi. And that's a really good system to use too, because you can put everything in there. Is that what you do at Warradale? Yep. So Christie's Beach and Warradale both use Bokashi at the moment, and Jonathan Orsley says that it's great. And I would agree. So next question. Oh, back to Christie's, Kevin. Oh, and Stansbury use Bokashi as well. So Christie's Beach, did you remember what your question was?
Alright, can you hear me?
Again.
Right, my question
Is that noise? Doesn't come with everyone laughing. It does.
Control button. I think it's getting a bit of interference there. Taylor at Gamaraka or somebody at Gamaraka? We've got two microphones on at Gamaraka. One of them says Taylor. That one probably needs to go off.
How do you turn it on?
I think we fixed it. Oh, okay. Oh. Kevin, did you want to try again? And then we'll go to Rory.
my question is, how much do the rude or nude bins cost? Not nude bins, nude food containers cost?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure about the one that was under the nude food movers thing, but these For My Earth ones that Pippa's put up on the screen, I think they're, if you buy more than 30 or something, I think they're between $4 and $5 each. But they last really well, and they're like, you can wipe them down and you can throw them in the washing machine as well. So they're pretty good for high school students, because often you can't put lunch boxes and stuff back into bags or get to your lockers at lunchtime, so they're really handy that you can just sort of scrunch it up and put it in your pocket. There's been some good feedback from high schools about them. Okay, one last question, and I'll let Kelly take this one.
Jan's got a question. What was that one?
Sorry, we don't have a question.
Oh, okay. Does anyone have a question for either of the schools, Edithburgh or Murray Bridge High? Joe has a question.
I was just wondering, Murray Bridge High, you mentioned that you've got 10 bins from the council. Are they especially for putting 10-cent containers or recyclables or something like that into?
Yes, they are recycling bins that have been used, and the council is donating it to us. And they're pretty, not 100% new, but still in good condition.
That's excellent, guys. It's good to hear. So if no one has any more questions, for now we'll wrap it up. Thank you for being a part of this workshop. Special thanks to Jo Hendricks for all her waste knowledge for materials. And for Edithburgh and Murray Bridge High for their wonderful presentations. We look forward to hearing from some of the other schools in the coming workshops. The next Centra event will be on Wednesday, July 28th, and the theme will be water. And then the one after that will be on the 25th of August with a biodiversity theme. They'll both be at 1 to 1:30, so same time. And if your school has any water or biodiversity stories to share, let Pippa know, and you could be famous on Centra. And the next exciting face-to-face event will be on the 13th of September. There'll be more information coming about that later in the year, but don't forget to get excited about that one. And you'll get your reducing waste lunch wraps when we meet next time as well. So if you think of some questions later on, you can post them on our website on the message board at yecsa.all-forum.net. And if you wanted to view this workshop again, or show your parents, yecsa.net.au. And it'll take a few days to get on there, but once it is, it should be good. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Jeremy.